Hey sunshine, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, first off, hey girl, how you doing? If you're into beauty, lifestyle, level up, glow up, just living our best lives, especially as, aging and mature women, it is so important to me for us to just age gracefully and just live the life that we truly want to live. So if you like that type of content, please like and subscribe. We're on a mission over here and I would love for you to come along for the ride. So today I'm just going to do a video about how to do a natural everyday type of makeup look. Just as I'm getting older, I'm now 45, my makeup technique has had to change recently. Like I've started to see more lines coming up. A lot of the makeup content that I was watching are by people that are much younger than me and are not experiencing these changes yet. So I wanted to just, one, get to know my new skin as I'm aging. So I've learned some things. My technique has changed drastically from, I wouldn't say drastically, but it's changed a lot from how it was maybe, 5 years ago even. So I thought it would be nice to do a video because I had a hard time finding content out there for women of color doing just everyday type of makeup routines. I did see some that were like makeup artists. The application was just a little bit heavy for just that everyday makeup look, and I really just like to have a less is more, very natural, like your skin but better type of look, just in my normal everyday. We're running around, we're taking care of kids, we're taking care of families, we're going to work. We don't have time to put a lot of time into doing this really extravagant makeup look. So I wanted to do just a video showing you what I'm doing lately just for that everyday, very simple, everyday but simple, elevated, type of look. So I'll have all the tips and tricks of what I've been doing recently just to help me with my application on my makeup, help with not getting makeup into those fine lines and having it settle there, and just having more of, not a flawless look. Makeup application looks best when it looks like skin. So to me, it doesn't need to be beat to the gods and flawless, but just to make us look awake. I feel like the goal for everyday type of makeup routine is just to look fresh, to look awake, to look healthy. This is the kind of look to help you achieve all of that. So if you want to see how I got this look and everything that I've been learning and working on, all the products that I've used, stay tuned. So I already did all my moisturizing and everything. I use La Roche-Posay for my moisturizer for my face, and then I use the N-Beauty Extreme Eye Cream on my eyes. And then I'm going to be using the Glow Screen. So I'm just going to be using this as my sunscreen because you should always wear sunscreen, but as we get older, it's just even more important to make sure you have a sunscreen on every day. And I kind of just put it on. I'm generous about it because, I just want to make sure I have enough. I don't giving my skin the most protection. And excuse my hair. I'm trying out those blowout rollers for the first time. So that's what's going on with my head. I love the way those gives your skin just a little glowy. And then I found when I'm using this that I don't need to use, I don't really need to use a primer when I'm using this. So that's good. It kind of gives your skin that glowy, but also has a bit of a blurring effect as well. I have these towels. Do you guys like these towels? I've started using these. One, it helps to cut down on laundry, and that's also more sanitary. So I use these, and they're just those little white towels. And see that? And I get them off of Amazon. I'll put those in the comments as well. But you can use them for everything. I mean, when I wash my face, I make a big mess on the bathroom sink, so you can wipe off that area. It's good for removing makeup because I'll use like an oil cleanser to remove my makeup, and it's good just to wipe off and give your skin just a little bit of an exfoliation, like a gentle one. Sometimes even if I'm getting a little oily, I'll blot my face with these. So I love having these. Okay, and then my next thing is to use the skin tint, and I'm using the Danessa Myricks, and this is in the color 11. And just for every day, I don't really, care to wear a full foundation, so I love the skin tint. It evens the skin tone, does everything that it's supposed to do, with also still giving some good color payoff and still feels pretty lightweight. And I like to just put it on my hand. Because the big thing that I'm learning as I'm getting older, because I used to just put the makeup right onto my face, but the thing that I'm learning as I get older is that you really want to control how much you're putting on your face, because less really is more. We don't need a lot. When you use a lot, that's when it starts settling into those fine lines. And that's the big thing about aging, is you don't want a bunch of makeup getting caked up and settling into those fine lines. So putting it on the hand and then using my brush and kind of putting it on my face allows me to control how much I'm putting on there, and also to keep it very light coverage. And this is just an e.l.f. airbrush blender brush. I think I probably got this at Target a long time ago. And then as you're applying, you want to stay away from the eye area. And that's the biggest thing like that I'm learning, or have learned, about applying makeup now that I'm in my 40s. You can't really just, you know, slather makeup all over your face like we did when we were younger. You want to control, and then you want to keep it as light as possible. Like, as you're getting older, less is definitely more. And I've definitely seen a change in my application. It's definitely improved since I've started doing it this way. And I kind of concentrate like the makeup to the lower area of my face, and then I'll put like the leftovers up here. And I love this airbrush brush because it really does give a really good blending effect. And you don't want to drag your makeup, you really want to kind of press it in and then get down into your neck area, because you want everything to be the same color. And just for my everyday look, I keep it really simple. If I was wanting to take this up a little bit more, I would do color correction and stuff like that, but just for everyday, I don't do all that. Like, this video is gonna be longer, but this process really is really quick when I'm just doing it on a regular everyday basis. And then I kind of just like to go under the eye and make sure that I don't have any makeup reaching up there. And then I'm using the Giorgio Armani concealer, and this is the color 8.75. So this looks like that. And I like this one because I picked a color that's pretty close to my skin, just for that everyday look. I don't really feel like I need like a brightening look. And then also, if you're going to be brightening, particularly for mature skin, you want to make sure that you color correct first. You don't want to put a bright concealer over your skin, because it'll start to give that gray effect, and it looks really unflattering if it gets settled into line. So you want to use a color that's close to your skin tone, unless you're color correcting and you want to brighten, like if you're doing more of a put together look, like if you have an event or something like that and you're going a little bit heavier, then you can go that route. But for every day, you want to try to pick something that's a little bit lighter than, you know, like a shade or two lighter than your skin, but it's pretty close. So the biggest thing that I've learned recently, adjusting to, you know, the changes in my skin, is less is really more, like I said before, especially with concealer. My struggle, which made me like start to go on this hunt to figure out how am I doing my makeup now. Like, I'm watching younger influencers and they're swiping a whole bunch of concealer all across their eye. That is not working for me anymore. And then I did also watch some older influencers, but they're like makeup artists, so I know makeup artists tend to go a little bit heavy, and that wasn't working for me either. So I found that this method that I'm using now has worked like the best for me. And it really is using less of the concealer and keeping it just into this center area here. So I don't know if you can see that. So just keeping it in there. And this is the area where I have some discoloration and hyperpigmentation, like dark circles. And then also, because I'm wearing contacts now, but I was wearing glasses for a long time, and I started getting some discoloration from it sitting on the bridge of my nose. So I concentrated on the bridge and just drag it out a little bit. But if you don't have that, you can just kind of do a swipe like right here, and that will be enough for you. And I kind of just pat it in so that the color is not like blotchy. And then another trick is to bring some concealer here to give your eye a little bit of that lifting effect. Because, you know, as we get older, things start going down, and I saw that this little trick helps to give your eye just a little bit of a lift in that area. You really don't need that much. So you're not going to drag your concealer all across. You're not going to do a V shape. You're not going to do rounding out and all that. You're going to just do a little bit here and then a little bit there just to bring things up. I kind of like my concealer to dry down a bit so that when I start blending it out, it doesn't move around too much and just, you know, get cakey and start settling into those fine lines. So I found that letting it sit like this, drying down a bit and then manipulating has worked better to keep it from settling into those fine lines. So while it's drying, I'll go ahead and work on my eyebrows. So this is the Rare Beauty Brow Harmony. I just start with, I like to brush my eyebrows up into kind of an upward motion, kind of helps me to see what I'm working with. I feel like everybody has their own way like that they like to do their eyebrows, so it's a very individual experience, but this is what works for me. I need to make my appointment to get them microbladed because I did have a microbladed before. I mean, that's a game changer. I love microblading because I don't know, I love doing makeup, but I do not like doing eyebrows, like trying to make them look like sisters and cousins and all that, and my eyebrows are so sparse, it's just a pain. So that is one of the things that's on my list, is to go ahead and do that. Oh, and before I do this, another thing that I've been doing lately, because when you put brow gel, it can get muddy. So I've been going through and just wiping any foundation that I've gotten into my eyebrows off. And that just makes, one, it makes putting the eyebrow product on easier because it's not sliding around because of, you know, a bunch of foundation settling into your eyebrows. When I do this, they're able to get to the shade that I want them to be a little quicker and just use less product and just be more precise. So I kind of start with shaping them out at the bottom, just light, a very light touch. Because I feel like as we're getting older, like I said, brows are very individual, but as we're getting older, you really don't want like harsh eyebrows. When I see a mature woman with harsh eyebrows, it's just giving Cruella de Vil, and we don't want to give that. So we really want to keep it soft. And then I kind of just fill in from there. So did the eyebrows, so we're good to just start blending out the concealer. And then I found like kind of staying low, because I know like sometimes people will just blend all that into their waterline and it looks very unnatural. So one thing that I've been doing too is staying below that waterline, and I feel like that gives me more of a natural look. And then I really love these pads versus a damp sponge, because a damp sponge, it moves around the product too much and it kind of defies the whole point of letting it dry so it doesn't move. And I like this too because your finger is like in there, almost like you're just using your fingertip to move it around. And you can use your finger, but I feel like I get fingerprints on my makeup when I do my blending out. But this doesn't do that, but I still get that precision that I need. And this is just a Sephora brand one, but I know like e.l.f. has them, like you can get them through any brand. See, we give yourself that covered, but still looks a little natural. And you always want to kind of like keep your head in this downward because we want to make that skin under the eye taut to minimize any settling in that area. And then for powder, now there are several schools of thought when it comes to powder. Some say if you're older, don't do it. And then there are some that say it's okay. And I feel like it's just very based on your skin. You know your skin, you know what it's going to do. You can try powder. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. I'm still using powder. Probably eventually I will stop as, you know, I age more and the lines get deeper. But now I'm 45, so I can still use a bit of powder. But you do not bake. Baking is not our friend. And then you also want to do a really good pressed or really fine powder. So The only two powders that I'm using right now are I use the Laura Mercier or I use this Urban Decay All Nighter Waterproof Setting Powder. I like this one because one, it's not messy and it's a translucent powder, so it's not like a specific color, but it still does give a little bit of that brightening effect. The other thing is I know we tend to use like probably one of these type of pads like a lot of people use, or a thicker brush to do setting powder. You don't want to do that. I've switched to using a brush like this so that I have a better control of how much I'm putting on there, and this is a Real Techniques brush 108. What I do is I just do a very light touch of powder there, and then you always want to shake it off even though this is pressed and not much gets on there. And then I kind of just pat here, and I don't go up too far because, you know, we laugh or expressionful. We have expressionful faces. Is that a word? I don't know. And then again, you want to make sure that skin's taut. So I like to put a little bit more on the bridges if you're going to be out and wearing sunglasses, even though I feel like it doesn't really work. You still get a little bit of movement in there. And then because we put concealer in this corner area here, we want to put some there. So we put it on, but the next thing you want to do is you want to kind of brush it off. You don't want anything settling, baking, any of that. So very gently kind of brush it off. And I say very gently because you don't want your concealer to move. So just very gently kind of brush off what you put there. Make sure that skin's taut. Okay, and then I use the same brush just to put a little bit here because that's that area that gets shiny, 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 shiny. And then I put on my top lip too because this area, the first place on my face, just started sweating. So I kind of like to set the makeup there too. And then the next thing that I like to do is use a pressed powder. I use the Sephora Micro Smooth. I like it because it's very skin-like. It's not like one of those drier powders. It's like a mineralized, it's called the Multitasking Baked Face Powder. I thought it was mineralized, but maybe not. But I really like it. It's very skin-like, it's very light. And I use a very, very fluffy brush. And this is just an old e.l.f. brush that I've been using for years. I don't even, it doesn't have the number, it's rubbed off. But it's just like a very fluffy brush, as you can see. I like to use this brush because it gives a very light touch. And like I said, as we're aging, less is more, especially for every day. You just want your face to feel light and breathable. So I just brush it there, and then you want to kind of pack it in. You don't want to drag your makeup around. You don't want to move things. So you just kind of pack it in like this. So it gives like coverage, but not too much. And next, because it kind of blends things together. And then remember, you want to kind of avoid that eye area. And then my next thing is just to do a little bronzer. I have a darker bronzer that I use. It's actually the Charlotte Tilbury. And I like to use that a lot, but if I'm doing everyday makeup, I don't really use like a bronzer that's too like a sculpty contouring type bronzer. When I want more of a contour look, then I'll use that darker one. But I use this NARS one. It's Casino. That's the color, and I use it a lot. And I use this as like kind of like my everyday go-to, and I just use it just to bring a little more color to the skin. And I also use it as my like an eyeshadow because I don't really use an eyeshadow every day. I have this old Eco Tools brush that I've had forever, and I really like it, so I'm still using it. So I kind of just put bronzer here. Just give yourself that little shape. And it just gives a little bit of definition, but not too much. And you also want to make sure that you're going like in an upward direction. That's one of the key things that as we're getting older, I'm learning is that we want to do everything going up. You want to give the illusion of your face being snatched. And then I'll just put a little bit up here. Okay, and so while we have this open, the other thing I like to do is see how the skin tint is kind of settling in those lines. So I like to wipe that off. Sometimes I'll put a little pressed powder in there too, and that really helps, but you don't have to. But I'll just do like this just to make sure I have nothing settling in those lines in there. And then I'll use this brush. This is a Morphe E23 brush. I'll just put that, and it kind of just like evens out the skin tone, but still giving a little bit darker of a color, the same color as your bronzer, but makes your eyelids not look, you know, shiny. That's the main reason why I use this, just to make my eyelids not look shiny and just to give them all like an even color. Then also, like, I have discoloration, but on an everyday basis, I'm not about to be color correcting no eyelid and doing all that. So this kind of does that color correction for me, or at least just hides things, but not so much to where you can't see your skin. That's kind of like the purpose to me for like an everyday natural look, is to like still have your skin. Like, we don't need to look flawless or beat to the gods. To me, I just want to look awake. I want to look well rested, healthy. That's the goal for me. And then the next thing is to do a little blush. This is the Orgasm Rush by NARS. I guess I don't really know, you guys don't know what NARS looks like, but this is what the color looks like, and I love this color. I used to be a complete Orgasm blush girly, and then they came out with Rush, which is just a little bit darker, a little bit deeper than that one. So I'm like stuck on this one right now too. And I feel like it's just a beautiful summer shade color as well. And then I'm using this brush. It's a two-sided Real Techniques brush, and then the side I'm using is 105. And I like this brush because sometimes I'll use a cream blush and sometimes I'll use a powder one. So this side is the bigger side is the powder side, and then this side is more denser for a cream shadow. So we're using the fluffy side. And then for blush, if I could talk, you want to apply it in an upward motion as well, just like you did with your bronzer. And I feel like this is for anybody, because I know some people can get a little heavy-handed with the blush and it looks a little clownish. And then also as you're older, because things are starting to go down as we get older, one, you want to put your blush on in an upward motion. Two, you also don't want to do like that smiling and then putting blush right here, because then it does give that clownish look. So my thing is to start blush kind of like here instead of here. You don't want the blush too close to those nasolabial lines, because it just brings more attention. So if you put it more out this way, it doesn't bring attention to that area and makes your face, gives the illusion of a, you know, more pulled up face. And then my next thing is, I should have did it earlier, I usually do it earlier, is I've been using this Dior Lip Maximizer, and it has lip plumping in there. So I like to put that on and just let it sit for a little bit while I'm doing my makeup, just to fill in any fine lines and to make my lipstick application or whatever I'm using. I mean, you could just use this, but if I do this before, I kind of blot it off, and it's like a preparation for my lip product. So let's just get that on so it can start doing its magic. And I really like this too, because it does a really good job of moisturizing your lips, which a lot of lip glosses don't do. And I have very sensitive skin. Like, there are very few lip glosses that I can use that will not break out my lips and, you know, get those little hives and start rashing over and dries them out. This one does not do that, so I'm very happy with that product. And then the next thing, we're just going to be finishing off our eyes, and I like to use this Sephora colorful shadow stick inliner in the color Espresso Matte. So it just looks like that. And then I'll use a concealer brush, one of the small concealer brushes. This is the e.l.f. concealer brush, if you can see that. And it just has like that, it's a very dense type of brush, and it has that rounded top. So I kind of just brush the top of this. You can apply it directly, but I find that gives more of a softer effect by doing it this way with a brush. Sometimes I'll go back and forth, but so first I like to put a little bit here. So remember that thing I was saying about not putting concealer near your waterline, because it's naturally a little darker in this area. So this is one of the tricks that I do just to make things look more natural, is to put a brown in that waterline area. And if you did get any concealer in there, it kind of brings that color back. And then I kind of just take it out to the ends and bring it up. And this is part of that trick that we're doing of bringing things up, you know, giving our face that lift through makeup. And so then next I do is I put some more, and you know, just based on your skin tone, you can go darker if you want. I do want to try a darker shade, maybe not black because I feel like that's too harsh for every day, but maybe a deeper brown. But the next thing I do is I kind of do like a tight line with this brush in my eye. You can see that. Okay, get that a little closer. Kind of do like a tight line where I just kind of go in between the hairs. And it's not precise, but you just want to stay in that hair area. And then once I go in the hairs, I kind of go on the outside and smooth it out. And then, still remember how I drew that line up here? It's a very faint line, but I kind of connect to that area too, just to give your makeup that more pulled up look slightly. And then I just go in on this side and do the same thing. I like this because it just looks a little bit softer than like an eyeliner look. And makes the eyes look just a little bit more pulled up. If you watched any of my other videos, then you know I'm not really into wearing too much mascara anymore. My eyelashes are very sparse. It's just kind of a headache trying to put mascara on, and I just don't want to do it. So I use these little self-adhesive cluster lashes, or sometimes if I want them to last longer, then I'll use the mascara to bond it together. But today, just for everyday lashes, we're doing just some very natural lashes just to give me a little lift, but not do too much. So first, you always want to do eyelash curler, especially if you have like no eyelashes like me. So I like to give mine a little curl, just to give them a little lift the little nothing that I have. And then I'm just using these Amazon lashes. You can see like I reuse them. They're all over the place. Don't judge me. And I only put like 3 of them on there. For every day, I don't need this to look dramatic. I just need to look a little put together. Just like I put a little effort into myself. Then I give them another little curl, just to make sure they're all molded together. So we've had our Dior lip been sitting on for a while, so I'll just kind of blot this off because we didn't really do it for color. We just did it for a little plumping, a little moisture. So next I'm going to go in with my Patrick Star One Size. It's the Lip Snatcher in the color Rent Dew. If you feel like you need to overline, then overline. I slightly overline. And I just kind of go. I feel like my bottom lip doesn't really need an overline, so I just go along the ridge. And then the top one I'll overline just a bit. So I'm just going at the tippy top of that, you know, that crest. And then I love the Cupid's bow. I know like the young girls just kind of do that straight across. I'm still a Cupid's bow girl. So I kind of like rub it off, not rub it off, but kind of smudge it a bit. Because for every day, like I don't need a harsh line. I just want to give more of that that definition effect of the liner. And then the color that I'm going to use today is, this is Charlotte Tilbury Walk of No Shame. And this color is so pretty. It kind of gives like that, you know, day after. You know when you wear like a really red lipstick and it stains your lips the next day, so you kind of have like that, you know, that lasting effect of it the next day. I feel like this with this color, it kind of gives, it looks like the day after a nice red. And I keep it very light, like you can put it on darker, but I feel like for every day, I don't really need it to be like heavy. Then my next step is just to set everything in place. And I always like to set before I use mascara. My last step is going to be the mascara on my bottom lashes, but I like to set before because sometimes if you go spraying stuff after you put mascara on, it'll run and it gets messy. So I always like to set my makeup first and then do that spray. Then do the eyelashes. And this is just the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush. And then I just let everything set in. And then our next step is optional. Sometimes I do it and sometimes I not. It's completely fine if you don't do it. But it's just locking your eyebrows. So I just use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Eyebrows Gel, the Brow Freeze Gel. Just kind of go like this. You know, I know like some people want the more fluffier, drier looking brow. That's fine. Next, I just put a little bit of mascara, and this is just drugstore. It's the Bambi Eye by, is this Maybelline or L'Oreal? L'Oreal. It's just the Bambi Eye by, you can see that, by L'Oreal. So just a quick little drugstore. I don't feel like you need to spend like a lot on mascara, especially if you're like me, you're only using it in the under eye area. So, and I like the way this formula works. It is good enough for me. And I just put a little bit because I don't really have lashes there anyway. So I just kind of brush it on. Alright, so this is the final look. So I hope that this video was helpful, and if you have any tips, like I'm all here for tips, I'm always saying sharing is caring. Please feel free to leave it in the comments, and let me know if you guys have any other makeup videos, beauty type of videos that you'd love to see. This is actually a lot of fun. So thank you for watching, and if you want more of this type of content, please like, subscribe, comment, do all the things, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, bye.